you can study real estate back like 100 years, and something interesting you'll see are these these 20-year periods where people will migrate more into the urban core, and then the next 20-year cycle you'll see people expand into the outer core. And so I would probably say that most cities across the US over the last 20 years have people have been slowly migrating more into the urban core of the city. And so an interesting prediction I have about real estate is that number one, for the last several years, I've known that we've been approaching the end of this 20-year theoretical cycle that people go through in terms of migrating into the urban core and then expanding into the suburbs and rural areas. So we've been approaching the end of this 20-year cycle, and it's a function of like, when do you actually believe that begun? Like, my personal opinion is it kind of begun, like, for example, in Austin, Texas around 2004, 2005, 2006. We started having a lot of high rises built in the downtown area in that time frame. And the velocity of new construction downtown only slowed down because of the Great Recession. But as soon as the Great Recession lifted, economy started to improve. Like, the velocity of new construction started going gangbusters in the core, the urban core of Austin, Texas. So anyways, number one, I feel like we've been approaching the end of this 20-year cycle within the next like 5 years. Like, if this theory of the 20-year ebbs and flows is accurate, we've been approaching the end of this cycle. And I think that the coronavirus could actually accelerate the next phase of this 20-year cycle, meaning more people are going to be willing to move to rural America or to the suburbs and get out of the urban core, because when you think about the impact of coronavirus, it's impacted the cities the most, where population density is at a peak. I think that kind of validates my point and my prediction that I believe we might start seeing across America the spread of the people starting to sprawl out again across cities. So instead of this urban density thing people have been attracted to, I think people are going to start spreading out, and I think it's going to create a lot of opportunities for developers, because if you can somehow create developments where you can integrate both retail, business, coffee shops, things like that, like with neighborhoods, that's incredibly attractive and something that has not been done in the suburbs of most cities. There are some exceptions to this rule, but something interesting about like Europe and other countries is like the walkability is amazing. And then if I haven't been to Portland, but my understanding of Portland is the walkability scores are incredibly high. And so speaking specifically about Austin, Texas as an example, and some other cities I've been to, like when you leave the urban core, your walkability score drops substantially. So I think there's a pretty amazing opportunity there for developers to integrate these characteristics that the urban core has, integrate those into the suburban markets to make them more attractive for consumers. And I think that could really differentiate, create some differentiations for developers in these outlying areas.